Your 401k is about to change forever. That's right, the US government just dropped the biggest bombshell ever that may allow you to add cryptocurrencies into your 401k. That's right, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the like, but also digital assets. Now, this could be the biggest shakeup in 401k's history. That's right. Now you have to ask yourself, is this a revolution or is this a recipe for disaster? Let's dive into it. So earlier this year, the working group on digital asset was formed, and they just published their report on digital asset. This is a 160-page report, and the report urges regulators to immediately enable digital assets trading at the federal level and calls for updating rules to accommodate blockchain. This is a sweeping change across all kinds of regulatory bodies that's going to have to change. This means that you would be able to add cryptocurrencies and alternative assets in your 401ks and other retirement plan. This is absolutely unbelievable. But before we dive in, I want to make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to this channel because I'm going to be bringing you more updates as they come along. This is just a developing story. This is just getting started. And if you want all the details straight away, I'm going to put a link in the description about the White House report on digital asset that just came out this week. That's the 160-page report. I'm also going to put my detailed notes about this video and my research on this. Why does it matter? Why should you pay attention? Well, for your 401k, that means that you would be able now to, the same way you're adding stocks to your 401k, now you would be able to add digital asset, Bitcoin, Ethereum, but also digital asset like other projects. So there are projects out there that are basically fractionalizing real estate, for example. You would be able to buy a piece of real estate, 1/1000th of an apartment building somewhere in Chicago, for example. So there's a lot of these projects out there that allows you to buy fractions of real assets. You would also be able to invest in Bitcoin and Ethereum, obviously, either actively investing in them, buy low, sell high kind of thing, but also just parking your money into Bitcoin and Ethereum and watch it grow. There are other types of assets as well that you could invest in potentially from your 401k. So some of these assets have better return than the stock market. That would be an advantage for someone that is preparing for retirement. There's also higher risk. There's also higher volatility on the stock market, and some of them are not basically linked to real economy or real transactions or real things that are happening. This might change as the USDC is getting the stable and other stable coins are getting more tied into what's happening in the economy. But right now, a lot of that crypto ecosystem is not really tied to transactions to the real economy. So we'll see how that builds up as we have more of these regulations coming through. If you're a crypto investor, you don't care about 401k, you just want to invest in crypto, I suspect that Bitcoin and Ethereum will skyrocket as more in the 401k money is going to flow in to the ecosystem. I haven't seen that yet, but I think this is going to happen. Remember that there's $39 trillion of retirement assets out there, about $7 trillion in 401ks alone. That means that even if a small percentage of these assets are invested in the crypto world, that means that's going to be a massive impact on the value of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other digital assets out there. Now, Wall Street and crypto, they're already working together. They already know what's going on. So a lot of financial firms, retirement plan providers are already working on some offerings that they can put into your plan that you would be able to select from. If you're a crypto entrepreneur and you build these digital shares, these digital assets, this is fantastic. That means that you can continue to build offerings and offer them now to a broader variety of investors. So if you have a real estate project and you want to create digital share, fractionalizing your real estate project, then it would be easy for you to do that and then offer it to 401k. So we'll see what the regulatory path is going to be for that to validate these projects and make sure that it's somewhat safe and secure for the investors. There's a lot that needs to be done there. This is where the work is going to be. There's also a wider push to allow crypto assets to be considered when you're trying to qualify for a mortgage. So right now, if you're trying to get a mortgage, you can't count your crypto assets as an asset because it's too volatile, and so they don't want to consider that. But now there's a wider push for that. There's also a wider push for gold and private equity to also be allowed as an investment for your 401k. So that's also something that's very interesting. So there's a plan around that. If you go back a little bit, Biden in 2022 and the Department of Labor actually warned employers to not offer crypto at all, to stay away for crypto for the 401ks. The 401ks wanted to be safe and secured. Earlier this year, Trump basically scrapped that guidance and called for asset neutrality. He appointed a working group earlier this year. That working group created this 160-page report. Also, July 18, the Genius Act was signed into law, and that provided a whole structure to legitimize stablecoin. There's more rules and regulations around the SEC, the CFTC, and who's going to control that, what regulatory body is going to be affected that, but there's going to be more clarity coming around that. But this is absolutely massive, and I already had a video about that. But this is the second most massive one. It's the 401k being able to invest in crypto. So that report that the working group just published urged regulator to immediately enable digital asset trading at the federal level, and called for an update on all the rules and regulations all over the government. So this is massive, and this is going to open doors for a lot of different assets. That's going to be very exciting. It also calls for US leadership in the blockchain finance, so they actually nominated someone to do that. The report doesn't mention, when you read the report, you're not going to see anything about 401k directly, but you can see that it directs regulator to basically clear all the roadblocks for the crypto acceptance. So they want to make sure that asset class neutrality, they want to consider crypto just like any other asset class. And this is what the report is pushing for. Now, for the first time ever, cryptocurrency and alternative assets could be allowed to be invested in your 401k. And we expect an executive order to be signed any moment now in the next couple of days. That's going to direct regulators to clear the way for 401k plans to include these alternative assets. There's also, I talk about the 401k push to include private equity and gold as well in there. So this is the fact sheet from the government ushering the golden age of crypto. So when President Trump took office in January, he made a promise to make America the crypto capital of the world. Only last year, he thought that crypto was a bad idea. By implementing these recommendations, policymakers can ensure that the United States leads the blockchain revolution and ushers in the golden age of crypto. Now, that fit-for-purpose market structure framework is essential to support growth and innovation in the digital assets industry, protect consumers, and keep the United States at the forefront of digital asset development. Obviously, this is fantastic, and this is really forward-looking. I think it's really, I'm afraid we might be going too fast, honestly, because we just did the stable coins two weeks ago, and already it is not totally clear exactly who's regulating what. But there is the Clarity Act that's coming up. They're planning to do that in September, and that's going to eliminate any kind of gaps in regulatory oversight, especially between the CFTC and the SEC, etc. They also embrace the DeFi technology and recognize the potential of integrating such technology into mainstream finance. So that's going to be a big one also. The SEC and FTC use their existing authorities to immediately enable the trading of digital assets at the federal level by providing clarity to market participants on issues such as registration, custody, trading, and record keeping. They're also going to allow innovative financial products to reach consumer without bureaucratic delays through the use of tools like safe harbors and regulatory sandboxes. So a lot more going on here on this. Here's an article also from Bloomberg. A group charged by President Donald Trump with recommending policies on crypto markets called on federal regulators to use their authority to provide more clear rules on the trading of digital assets and ease the adoption of new financial product in a report released on Wednesday. So this is the digital assets report. By implementing these recommendations, policymakers can ensure that the United States leads the blockchain revolution and ushers in the golden age of crypto. That's from that fact sheet we just read. The policy proposal from the group, which was established by an executive order signed by Trump, touched on a wide range of issues in the digital space. Yeah, I'm talking about 401k, but there's a lot of other issues that it brings to the table, that it talks about in terms of structure, clarity that needs to be there. It's the whole roadmap on enabling cryptocurrencies and crypto assets into everything that we do with finance. Those include calls for Congress to pass the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act. So this is the Clarity Act that's coming in September. The report urges securities, the SEC and CFTC to use their existing powers to immediately enable the trading of digital assets at the federal level. And it calls for allowing innovative financial products to reach consumers without bureaucratic delays. The report also presses regulators to clarify permissible bank activities in regards to stablecoin issues and use of blockchains, promote transparency on how institutions can obtain bank charters, and ensure that bank capital rules better reflect the risk particular to digital assets. We just did the stable coins. Now we also want to make sure that it's clear, like how can I be a certified stablecoin provider? How do I provide transparency? What institution is going to look at things? How do I obtain a charter? What are all these things? There's a lot of rules that need to be made, and this is very new. It's probably the first time I think that the government is trying to be ahead of the curve. Normally they kind of respond to something that happened already. Trump, once a skeptic of cryptocurrencies, grew to become a champion of the industry, right? So even in 2024, he was talking about that. Up until Trump and his family have ties in digital asset business, including World Liberty Financial, a platform with its own branded token and stablecoin. So Trump tapped venture capitalist David Sachs to be the first ever White House artificial intelligence and crypto czar, and signed an executive order calling for the creation of a strategic Bitcoin reserve and separate stockpile of other digital currencies. So this is something else that's going to happen pretty soon. Remember that the report talks about having a U.S. leadership role. So David Sachs is going to be the leader of that digital currency roadmap. Here's another article. Trump administration has rolled back the Biden era guidance that discouraged 401k plans to use cryptocurrencies in their investment lineup. And this change opens the door for retirement investors to invest in digital assets. Previously, planned fiduciaries were advised to exercise extreme care before they consider adding a cryptocurrency option to a 401k in plan's investment menu. So while the Trump administration new guidance makes it easier for plan sponsors to offer crypto options to investors, plan sponsors are still required to meet certain fiduciary responsibility. So it's not going to be a free-for-all. The rules are going to have to be defined, but it's not going to be a free-for-all. We still want to have the 401k relatively safe. Although Walsh thinks it could be a while before retirement investors notice change in their 401k, he thinks some investors could be allowed to invest in crypto through the main 401k investment lineup via brokerage window in the future. And I think a lot of people think that it's going to happen before the end of the year. There is too much at stake when putting a significant amount in speculative assets for retirement. If you have an appropriate savings rate and you're averaging 6 or 10% average return over 30, 40 years, there's no need to add an extra layer of risk. Well, that's true. But what happens is that there are a lot of people that reach age 55 or 60 and they have $100,000 in their retirement account, and they're supposed to retire in 10 years, and there's no way they're going to make it. So what I'm afraid of is that a lot of people are going to take undue risk. They're going to go too far and take too much risk investing the little bit amount of money they have. They're going to lose it hoping that there's going to be a massive return somehow on the cryptos. If you start early, it's always better. You can recover, but if you start a little bit late, it's going to be very challenging no matter what. Then on CoinDesk, also there's a good article about that. So Trump is widely expected to soon issue an executive order that calls for Americans' retirement plans to open further to less traditional assets, which reportedly may include cryptocurrencies. Trump's director of Federal Housing and Finance Agency also recently ordered government-backed mortgage giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to make plans to include a borrower's crypto holdings among assets that can back up their mortgage. So this is something else. Expanding underwriting criteria to include the consideration of unconverted cryptocurrency asset could pose a risk to the stability of the housing market and the financial system, according to a letter to Pulte from several Democratic senators. That is absolutely, I mean, this can be an article on its own, but yeah, this could be a dramatic change also if we have a crypto collapse that could also bring in the real estate collapse. So the Senate needs to get sufficient support for its legislative effort on market structure, seen its partial draft from last week. So they're talking about the Clarity Act here. But the Clarity Act is the one that's going to clarify a lot of that's going on. So we expect, again, executive orders is coming. It could be signed any day. So the SEC, Treasury, Department of Labor, CFTC, a lot of these groups are going to be aligning their policies to support this alternative asset for retirement accounts, but also investments in general. A lot of these investments are not allowed into your regular trading account at your broker. Other things that you can look forward to, the Clarity Act coming to better define jurisdiction, processes, regulation, certification, etc. Democrats and financial watchdogs that are raising the alarm, calling crypto too speculative for retirement savings. They may have a point there. Experts caution savers to tread carefully, noting that cryptos is wildly volatile and urging them that any crypto allocation should remain small. They're actually recommending somewhere between 1 and 3% maximum of your assets into crypto to make sure that your 401k account is relatively safe. The issue is that a lot of people are going to try to catch up on their delayed retirement, and that's what I'm afraid of. It's people that are 55 and 60, and they look at 401k and they see that they have 150k available for retirement, and they're going to want to catch up. I mean, this is human nature. That could be a major problem. What are the impacts? Some of the winners: investors seeking high growth. Obviously, this is they couldn't invest before, now they can invest. Crypto industry is becoming legitimized and institutionalized. Pros and cons. I mean, there's a lot of people in the crypto that they want it to be completely unregulated and wild and free. But in order to basically be used in transaction in the real world, you need some kind of structure, some kind of legitimacy, and some kind of rules. I think in general it's going to be a positive thing for the crypto industry. Fintech, alternative asset managers, this is perfect for them. It's really kind of opening doors, making it feel at least a little bit safer that you can do that. Financial firms that are also going to provide digital assets for 401ks and retirement plans, that's also going to be something that they're going to benefit from. On the loser side, employers, they may have some issues, especially if you have a defined benefit pension plan and you allow your plan to invest into digital asset and they lose a lot of money, then you as an employer might have a fiduciary responsibility for the fund to make sure there's enough reserve and it's solvent. But also even for the 401k, if you allow it, you may have a fiduciary responsibility that you haven't protected your employees enough. There could be some kind of like legal issues there. So what's next? Well, executive order, we can expect the executive order to be signed like next week. Regulators are going to break down barriers and open more doors. So this is all the organizations of the government, every branch of government. Also more details, way more details, way more work that needs to be done to make sure that all cryptos going to be investable in the 401k? Is there going to be a certification process? Is there going to be how do we vet these things? Are we going to rely on the broker to decide or the financial firm to decide that this crypto assets is valid for your portfolio or not? What kind of, are we going to allow digital asset anywhere in the world, only in the US? What's the mix of that? And what is the process of accepting, crypto assets into your 401k or not? There's also the SEC, the chair of the SEC, Paul Atkins, also unveiled the crypto rulemaking plans. We need to look at that. I haven't read that yet. I just finished this one. Then we're going to have a first wave of crypto 401k plans that are going to appear in the next 3 months or before the end of the year. We have like Fidelity, Bitwise, and other assets managers that are already kind of lining up these investments into their plans and making them available for employees into their 401k portal. What should you do about all this, everything that's happening? Well, I think investing in Bitcoin and Ethereum might be a good idea right now. I wouldn't necessarily go into too many wild digital assets, because I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of money that's going to flow into the crypto ecosystem. It's going to increase the demand for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then that's going to push the prices up. The second thing you can do is to stay informed by smashing that like button, subscribing to this channel. I'm going to keep, this is obviously an evolving story. Things are changing very rapidly. I'm trying to stay on top of everything that's going on, and I'm going to bring you updates on a regular basis. So make sure you like and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss it. I also, as I mentioned, you can download the official White House Digital Asset Report. It's in the description. I also put in there my detailed notes for this video. Make sure you drop a comment. Let me know, would you consider putting crypto into your 401k? What is the percentage allocation that you would give your crypto assets? And what kind of crypto assets would you be looking at? Would you be looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum? Would you be looking at other digital assets? So again, make sure you like and subscribe, and see you next time.